G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I've got something a little bit different for you. I'm not going to be doing a review, I am going to be doing a top 5 most underrated films video. Now this is a video response for Ryan1988, Justin, who's a fantastic guy and I'm sure you're all aware of who he is. He's quite a well-known YouTuber around here. He did a video featuring 5 films that he thought needed more attention, and I really liked the idea, so I thought I would put 5 different films in that list. So some of his films that he showed, some I didn't like, some I really liked, but that's the beauty of it, all down to specific tastes. So these films that I'm going to be showing, I feel, are in my collection that no one talks about, well, no one that I'm aware of talks about. So it's a great shame, but hopefully after this video it's made you want to go out there and see them for yourself. So I've got, as I said, top 5, number 5 being the least underrated in this group. They are all underrated, but the least so number 5 and through to number 1, which is the most underrated, that I feel. Now, I'm not going to show off the usual, like I always show off mutants, films like that. Thought I'm going to change it up a little bit and give some movies that I don't talk about too much ago. So, I'm going to start off with number 5, which is an Australian film. This one is called No Through Road. No one talks about this one. It's got a very bad rating on IMDb, 3.6 out of 10. But that's just an indication that you can't trust IMDb with everything, because I thought this one was a lot better than 3.6 out of 10. I thought, the acting wasn't great, but it's very low budget, but it's very brutal, and I felt that there were some genuine chilling moments in it as well. Now, it's kind of like Straw Dogs. Obviously not as good as Straw Dogs, but kind of like an Australian version. You've got a group of thugs trying to get into a house, and this man and woman are fighting them off. Really, really enjoyable. Definitely not a film to take seriously, but if you're a fan of extreme stuff, I would highly recommend you check this one out, because as far as Australian horror goes, I thought this was a pretty good one. There's more movies out there that are much bigger budget that aren't as good, so don't believe everything you hear off IMDb. This one is a lot better than that score would suggest. I went into this one with no expectation because I had never heard of this one. I just saw it on the shelf, and I was surprised to see that it was Australian, because it even flies under the radar here. So that's a great shame, because it definitely deserves a lot more attention, and lower budget filmmakers deserve a lot more attention, especially in Australia. So a very low budget Australian shock fest, this one. I would highly recommend it, and I don't believe the bad reviews that it's got, because it is a lot better than most people say. But yeah, it's definitely a film I've heard no one talk about on YouTube. So, yeah. Number 4 is an American film that really took me by surprise once again. Heard nothing about this one. This is called Perkins 14. And this is proof that American independent filmmakers are much better at horror than mainstream. This one is a zombie film, but a different sort of take on the zombie genre. It's a little bit different. I thought it had some great gore. I thought there were some moments of silliness, but you've got to excuse that in a horror film. It's very fun, very gory. And as I said, if you're fans of zombie films, you will like this one. It's definitely a film that you can watch on a Friday night with some popcorn and friends. Yeah, I mean, this was cheap, so I thought I'd take the risk. I've been burnt by a lot of American films, but this is definitely a film that didn't burn me, because I really, really found myself enjoying it. So definitely a film I would highly recommend. And as I said, American independent horror is really reviving the genre in America at the moment. So definitely a film that no one talks about, but definitely deserves a lot of recognition. 3, we have Japanese horror film called Neighbor Number 13. This is different from the majority of Japanese horror films that focus on ghosts. This is focusing on split personality, kind of mental illness. Very, very good movie, very thrilling, and I thought there were some genuinely disturbing moments. So it does stay away from the typical Japanese ghost film, and it goes for something a little bit different. And this is my favourite Japanese horror film, because I thought it had a lot of depth to it. It's a fairly long film. It's 8 minutes shy of 2 hours, but at no stage does it drag. I thought it was done very, very well, very skillfully made, and it's one of the few Japanese horror films that I'd never heard about. So not enough people talk about this one, but it's definitely better than the recognition that it gets. So definitely, if you're a fan of Japanese horror and you want something a little bit different to films like The Grudge, then I would highly recommend you check this one out, because it is shocking, but it doesn't rely on the typical sort of Japanese ghost or gore. It's definitely a very psychological sort of film, so something a little bit different in the Japanese genre. Number 2 is a film for fans of Alien. I love this one. This is an Irish film called Isolation. This is set on a farm, and a farmer has a problem because the cattle seem to be infected with an alien sort of thing. And they give birth, and something very dangerous is lurking around in this farmyard. Very limited characters, which is good because it kind of feels like they're the only people that exist. And that while it's only on a farm, you feel that if it gets off the farm, it could infect the world. So if you're a fan of films like Alien or The Thing, you'll definitely get a lot out of that one. This one, sorry. Those films that I just mentioned relied a lot on atmosphere, and that's exactly what this film relies on as well. So this is a throwback to those golden ages of American horror. So yeah, this one surprised me. Once again, not enough people talk about this one, so I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. Some gory moments, but it doesn't rely on the gore. It just relies on the dreaded sort of atmosphere. Very cold and dark as well, the feeling. It's not a lot of colour. And I found, I really enjoyed this one. I think it's definitely criminally underrated. And then number one, the film that I feel is the most underrated. Well, I've got a lot of underrated films here, but this one deserves a hell of a lot more recognition because it is a very good film. And this is called The Serpent. This is a French film, French language, English subs, but don't worry, for fans in America, you can get a dubbed version. So, yeah, this one was very good. Clovis Cornillac plays the villain, and he reminded me a lot of Max Cady, which was the villain of Cape Fear, which Robert De Niro played in the remake. Yeah, a lot of Cape Fear sort of elements to this film, and it's the same kind of dreaded feel. And, as far as French horror goes, this is one that I'd never heard about before I purchased it on Amazon UK, and it just gives you a very satisfying feeling when you pick up a film that no one talks about and you realise just how good it is. And this is definitely a film that deserves a lot more attention and a lot more praise than it gets. People have been giving it decent reviews, but it deserves a lot more attention because this is a very good film and it's right up there with the remake of Cape Fear. Not as good as Cape Fear, but it's up there. So definitely a very good film to watch. And for this video, this is my most underrated film of modern horror. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you picked up a few new titles there and it makes you want to go out and see them. Support these films and the filmmakers that do them because, yeah, a lot of these sort of underrated films are a lot better than the mainstream films that get too much attention. So definitely some films to look out for and I'm sure you won't regret it. So until next time guys, I'll be back with a review shortly. I don't know when, but I'm bound to be reappearing at some stage soon. So until then, take care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye.